Are you ready to learn the basics of creating audiences in Google Analytics 4? Well, in this week's Workshop Wednesday, we will be doing that. Welcome. My name is Julie Brody. I am the Director of Measurement for measurementmarketing.io. Been building actionable dashboards since 2007. I've been part of the measurement marketing team and a measurement marketer since 2015, and been teaching measurement marketing to measurement marketers like you since 2017. And I'm also the lead account manager for all of our dedicated measurement management clients. So what the heck does all that mean? Is we, as our team, has seen a lot of different things throughout the measurement marketing world, and really passionate about making the dashboards actionable. And a lot of times that involves getting the right information to where you need it so you can put it in your dashboard to take action on that. I'm also one of the instructors back there inside the Measurement Marketing Academy. If you are back there in our academy, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to Ask Instructors, say hi, ask us questions. We are back there to help and guide you. As you go through this workshop and any one of our different workshops, lessons, tools, we always encourage you to remember the one thing so you can take it, make it your own. Don't try to grab everything, but then come back, watch it again, and get something else. So let's go ahead and get started with the basics of creating audiences in Google Analytics 4. As we start, we always want to go ahead and remember our foundation. What is our foundation? Well, our foundation is our measurement marketing framework, and we have 3 different steps. We have plan, build, and launch. And what these steps do is it allows us to go from marketing in the blind to being able to reliably grow those revenue and profits. So you kind of go from not knowing what's working and what is not working and what is working to being able to know exactly, kind of think about it, what button to push to know that if you push the button, it's going to grow your conversion rate, it's going to grow your revenue, it's going to grow your average order value. You know what's going to work. In order to do that, you have to go through the steps of the framework. And part of plan, you go through questions, information, and action. You have to know what questions ask, the information to gather, and the actions you're going to take with that information. Then in your build step, you go through results, traffic, and story. And that's where you start understanding results, understanding your traffic, and building your story to kind of gather all of that together. Then in your launch, you're going to be listening to that story. That's where you're looking at the reports and the dashboards and understanding what it's telling you, where you need to then go through and forecast so you can optimize. And once you're going through that, you're able to then reliably grow those revenue and profits. And it's, again, all part of the measurement marketing framework. If you want a deeper dive in this, we do have the measurement marketing framework course for free. If you want to hear more about that here in just a moment, we'll address that at the very end of this workshop. Let's go ahead and jump in to creating audiences in Google Analytics 4. So we are starting here in our example property where we have account, we have our property. And as you know, with Google Analytics 4, there's nothing else over here. So what we're looking for is this little guy right here. And before we dive into this, it is really important to make sure that you have the right permissions, or else you're not going to be able to do what it is we need to do. I want to show you real quick. So I have this blue button here. If you don't see a blue button, then that means you don't have the proper permissions. You will want whoever the admin is to go through and adjust the permissions so we can go through. We'll show you real quick. So we're going to view the user's account details. You won't be able to access this, but the admin would. And what you need them to be able to do is make sure you at least have marketer or above, because you want to be able to edit these audiences, which edit audiences is a incorrect verb or incorrect way of saying it, because technically, and we'll talk about that here in a moment, but you're going to be creating audiences, not editing them. So you want to make sure you have marketer or above. And again, your admin would have to do that. And so you have to just point them to that for that. All right, so let's go ahead and start in our audiences. So you would likely have these 2 exact same thing of all users and purchasers going through here. You see those. You can even click on these little dots, and our options are archive or archive on these, and that's because they're kind of the default out-of-the-box ones. If we were to click into them, it comes into another kind of report where we can see more details about them. We can always click the back button and we can come back in here. It has obviously the name, a description, which is going to be really useful as you kind of grow these different audiences and you have multiple people inside your Google Analytics 4 account. And then it says the number of users, and you could even hover over this to kind of give a little bit more context of what that means, and the change as relative to the dates that you're seeing right up here. And then you could see when it was actually created on. Now you see here we have a total of 2 right now. In Google Analytics 4, if you're on the regular GA4, not the 360, you have the opportunity to create up to 100 different audiences. So that definitely seems like a lot, but if you have a number of different user journeys, you might have to be picky and choosy about what you create. But let's go ahead and dive in to a new audience and see what we have here. So we have we're going to start down here under use a reference. So it kind of guides us to what is possibly possible. And we have a general, we have templates, and then we also have predictive. Most likely you're going to see this. Even in some of our clients that have a massive amount of data, we are still seeing this. So eventually we assume that those clients that do have a lot of data will see stuff for this. But if you have a limited amount of data like our teaching account, yours will also likely be looking like this. So, but we can always go through our templates. And we're going to start here. We can look at our demographics, and this is just a little tool that can help us build our audience that so we can choose what it is we want for our demographic. We want to create an audience where age is one of these, and so we can say we want them to be an older demographic maybe, and we would have to apply. And then if we wanted to choose a gender or a language, we could, and we could go through here and we would be able to create our audience with this. And then it's not as apparent, but we're going to show you here. This is where you would actually name your audience here. So we can choose age is over 45, or we're going to say age is 45 plus is what we're going to call this audience. And then you have these options over here. And this is simply saying how long should a user be included in the audience. The minimum is 1 day. The maximum is up to 540 days. If you try to type in 540, sometimes depending on your screen size, it's not going to show you the whole 540, but don't worry, it is actually showing up. So we're going to keep this at the default of 30. And then you can also choose this option and would just set to the maximum, which is again the 540 if you wanted to. We'll talk about this audience trigger here in just a moment, and we can even see a little summary sneak peek of what it's saying, like, hey, you actually do have users that are in this audience. And so we're going to go ahead and save, and it's going to bring us back to this particular screen, and you can even see that it's loading. And we're going to give it just a moment and it pops up. So we don't have a description here yet. And we can see we have our title, and obviously there's not enough data here because we literally just created it. So there's not going to be a change, and we can see our date. So here are our options now, since this isn't a out of the box one where we can't really control. So our options are edit, duplicate, and archive. Now let's go into this edit and see what we're able to do. I am actually clicking on here and nothing is happening. I am clicking and I can't change anything. I can't click on the trash can. I can't do anything. So what does it mean by you can edit? Guess what? This is the thing you can edit, and this is the thing you can edit. You can edit the name and you can edit the description. Oops, so we're going to say is 45 plus, keep that there. And then this is a test audience for users that are 45 plus. And so we're going to go ahead again and save because there is nothing we can do. I can't even change this number to anything that we would want to change it to. So what do you do if you create something and you need to edit it? Well, you would then come in and duplicate it, change whatever it is you need it to change. I want to go ahead and cancel because I don't want to go ahead and do that. But then you would archive the first one. And real quick pro tip, you won't be able to, actually, I'm going to go ahead and show you. I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to say 45 plus and we're going to say copy just to show you something real quick because it's really important to know. So we're going to go ahead and save, make this 15 days. That's just a quick change. We're going to go ahead and save. So if I archive this one, the OG, we're going to archive it. And so it's going to say, are you sure it cannot be undone? It really cannot. So we're going to go ahead and archive. And then we're going to go ahead and edit this one and see if we can get rid of this copy. And then it's not letting us save. Why is that? And I could add a space in here and it will let us save. The reason it won't let us save is because in the database of Google Analytics 4, even in the matter of 2 minutes, that age is 45 plus with no space is already kind of booked up by that one that we just archived that we cannot undo. So a little trick, again, you can see that I put a space in here. We can save. However, if you're going to use any sort of tools in the future, then this space might be an issue. So this is where you would have to get creative. You can say user age is 45 plus. You get creative and kind of adjust those. And so you can make sure you can use that. Another thing that I've done is put little hyphens on the end just so it doesn't mess up my alphabetical order for some of these. So that is a basic way of creating something from a template. The general one, you could come in through here and see what else is going on. So here we can see we're excluding users that have basically done a purchase. And they have these other ways of making a purchase that are through other different platforms. Maybe you're not used to like either gaming platforms or something in app. So maybe you're used to just this purchase. So you can always come through here and be like, oh, I'm never going to need those. And so we're excluding users that make a purchase, which would then be basically everybody else that did not make a purchase. As you can see here, we're excluding one and including everybody else. And so this is where you can just go ahead and create and save this one if that's what you want to do. And we have this one now as well. Now let's go back into our audience, and then we can also choose this create a custom audience. And so this may look familiar to you. Obviously, it is what you just saw, but it also might look a little bit familiar to you from what you've seen over here in your Explore reports inside of those funnel explorations. And we'll talk about that here in just a moment, but you're able to go through and set up all of your different conditions and you could go through and add a sequence and add steps and go through this. And the reason I'm not walking through this right now live is because I feel like there's a better way to do this because of what we just saw, like how much of a pain it is if you need to make a teeny tiny edit, or if you realize, oh, my logic was slightly off, and you end up, having to archive your audiences. You don't want to have to kind of constantly redo this. So the best way that we have found to create your audiences, especially if you're doing steps or sequences, you want to come over here to your Explore report. We're actually going to come over here to our Measure Summit sister site because we actually have a funnel that we're going to go ahead and use. We haven't had traffic to its basically since last year because it's only a very seasonal event, but we can go ahead and use this. And now if you have zero clue how to get this far, there are other courses and workshops out there to show you how to go ahead and build out your steps and build out this logic. It is When Google Analytics 4 Basics and When Google Analytics 4 Beyond Basics. Will dive deeper into this for you. So we're going to go ahead and click here, right click here, and create a segment from users. So what we're able to see here is we're able to go through and see basically it looks really familiar, doesn't it? We're able to see the steps that the users can do, step 1 and step 2, and we also have this option to exclude, and we have all of these other things going on. And we do have this other option to build an audience. So we can even check this, and we then, if we were to save and publish, this would become an audience, and this would become the name. So what we're able to do, we're actually going to uncheck this because I like to go through and make sure that the logic is correct before I create an audience. Because all the things we just talked about, how we don't want to have to constantly archive and have to deal with that with the segments, or excuse me, with the audiences. So what we have here is we have our step 1, and we do have indirectly or directly. Highly encourage you to keep it as indirectly, just because depending on your measurement, there might be other things happening in between, like a scroll, a click, or other things that might make this logic not work for you. So indirectly followed by is always great to have. Then you do have this new feature that is time constraint. So you can say, hey, how long until they did whatever it is you need them to do. Like for instance, if you have a 45-minute video and you want to create an audience of people that go to the cart within 2 minutes, clearly they're not watching the video. You can definitely talk to them differently and follow up with them differently than the people who did watch the video, because they probably got the content. The people who didn't watch the video did not get the content. So you can go ahead and do those there. You do have this option over here as well. And so that is for this entire sequence. And this is for just from step 1 to step 2. You do have the options, like with lots of other tools, to say they do this or they do, this is your or statement. So you can say another or, and you can also say and. They see these pages and whatever it is you need them to do. So just be really careful with your logic. You might accidentally kind of narrow yourself down too much. And this is why I don't build the audience yet. I go through here and then I'll show you how you can TBV, trust but verify, it's working the way you want it to. So then we can always add more steps, and then we can also use this option to exclude, very similar to what we did in one of the very first audiences we created with those are non-purchasers. So if you have the data in here, you can likely see purchase come through and it just be a regular purchase. We don't have that coming through right now because again, it's a very limited time event for this particular brand. So what we can just type in is event name as well, and just type in purchase. So when the event name contains purchase, it's going to do, let's make sure we actually press the apply button. We can click here and then we click apply. And so that way we are going to exclude users that actually make a purchase, but we're going to talk to the people that registered, which would be really useful. Let's talk to the people that registered but did not buy. Obviously, Google Ads would love that audience, and that's where the audiences can really, the magic of them can be really useful using them inside of Google Ads. So you can be really granular with that. So some of your other options you can see here is across all sessions or within the same session. So this all goes back to the same thing with the timer, is what questions are you trying to ask? So are you trying to say, like possibly with maybe more content marketing or e-commerce, you might say across all sessions. Or if you're like a direct response marketer and there's a very clear funnel where the users are supposed to go through, then within the same session is probably going to answer your question better. And then you have that same logic of saying here within the same event for all these things. Again, this could really make your logic go crazy if you narrow this down too much by adding and, because it may not happen in the same event. And that's where you have to be careful with that. Same thing with here. And so those are your basic options with inside your segments. We're going to go ahead and name this. We're going to call this MS and opt-in. And we can create a short description if we wanted to. And we're going to say, users that opt in from home page. And we're going to go ahead and save, not building our audience just yet. We're going to go ahead and do that. The next thing that you can do now that we have our segment here is you could come over into a regular report and apply the segment and drag and drop that there. And then you could maybe see, well, what pages are they seeing? So that's a page location. And then just look at the users that are doing that. And this could help you see what it is that the audience is actually bringing in. So again, we don't have much traffic here, but if we did, we'd be able to see through and see. We can even put in page path as well. Page path is another good one to have. And that way you can see, is it bringing the logic that you want it to bring, or is it bringing in logic you don't want it to bring? So this makes a little bit more sense. If we were seeing thank you pages, like meaning a purchase thank you page, clearly our logic is off because we were trying to exclude those. And that way, that's one of the ways you can TBV, or trust but verify. And then if we need to make any sort of changes to it, we can go through and edit. And it's saying, hey, it's currently in use. It's okay. We're just going to go ahead and edit the segment. And now, because we verified our logic, we're going to go ahead and build our audience, and we're going to go ahead and save and publish. And we see that it's here. And then we can go over to our admin section and see it show up in our audience report. So one final thing as we go into our audiences, we're going to come back in here, and I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one because there is one thing that we mentioned we're going to talk about later, and this is an audience trigger. And so this is where you can create an event for this path. So meaning you want to say, let's say you want to know if users are registering from the home page and going in, it's a complete thank you. Maybe you want to see users that are registering from a different page. Maybe it's a very social media specific page, optimized for social media, and you want them to opt in from that. So this is a different one. And so now you would be able to create a trigger where you can have it opt in home page or opt in social media page, whatever it is, you can have in a different name. That way you can, again, use that in multiple different ways. You can use that in across many different platforms, not just Looker Studio, and use that. So one little tip is that you only have 20 of these. So use these sparingly. But you have 20 audience triggers you can create, but up to 100 audiences. And that is the basics of creating audiences in Google Analytics 4. If you want to learn more, again, we have When Google Analytics 4 Basics and When Google Analytics 4 Beyond Basics that dives into this a little bit more and kind of shows you all of the other things we talked about with events and the goals, which are conversions now, and all of those other different things. What was your one thing? We'd love to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you are wondering how in the world do you get that free course we mentioned about in the very beginning of this workshop, in just one more moment, I'll tell you how to get to the free course so you can learn more about the measurement marketing framework. You can also get a bunch of other free tools like a traffic tracking toolkit. Wow, that one was hard to say today, which is our most popular tool, along with lots of other free exclusive tools for free. And the way to do that is by joining the Measurement Marketing Academy. We have a free edition and we have some other paid options if you want to join into the courses, the other not free courses, along with other more exclusive tools and other features, including Ask Instructor. Get to talk to us. If you want to learn more, go to measure.tips/getacademy. And again, there's 3 different options there for you. Just join the toolbox if you want to get the free course that we had mentioned with the measurement marketing framework. So that is the basics of creating audiences in Google Analytics 4. We'll see you next time.